I stood in the police identification room in Chiang Rai, watching through the one-way glass as they brought her in. Belle, or Kantama, which was apparently her real name, looked smaller than I remembered. The woman who'd charmed me for 8 months, who'd cooked me dinner and whispered about our future together, who'd convinced me to invest 2,300,000 baht into what I thought was our dream home, she sat in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights, her hands trembling, her mascara smeared from crying. The police officer beside me asked if I could positively identify her as the woman who'd defrauded me. "That's her," I said. My voice came out flat, emotionless. "That's the woman who took my money." They led me into the room for the formal identification. Belle looked up when I entered, and for just a moment, her expression shifted. The tears stopped. The trembling paused. Something calculating flickered behind her eyes as she assessed the situation, looking for an angle, an escape route, a way to manipulate her way out of this. Then she started crying again, performative, theatrical sobs that I now recognized as the same technique she'd used to extract money from me. "Ray, please," she wailed. "You're misunderstanding. I loved you. I really loved you. This is all a mistake. My family, they tricked me too. I didn't know." I held up my hand to stop her. The officer stepped forward, ready to intervene if needed. But I just wanted to say one thing. "You stole from the wrong man." That was it. No long speech, no angry tirade, no satisfaction in watching her crumble. Just a simple statement of fact. She thought I was another easy mark, a lonely Australian with more money than sense, the kind of foreigner who'd absorb his losses and slink back home in shame. She'd miscalculated badly. The investigation had taken 3 months. The evidence gathering, the coordinating with other victims, the navigating of Thai legal procedures I barely understood, all of it had consumed me since the day I'd discovered the truth. But standing in that room, watching the woman who'd betrayed me finally face consequences, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not triumph, not satisfaction, just a profound, bone-deep tiredness. She'd taken more than my money. She'd taken my trust, my hope, my belief that I could start fresh in a new country with a new life. Getting that back would take longer than any court case, but at least she'd learned that some foreigners fight back. If you've been enjoying the stories I create, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me dedicate time to making these videos despite my commitment to a full-time job. Thank you for being here. My name is Raymond Carter. Most people call me Ray. I'm 54 years old, born in Perth, Western Australia, and I've spent the last 31 years working as a heavy machinery technician in the mining industry. If you know anything about Australian mining, you know it's hard work in brutal conditions. The Pilbara region, where I spent most of my career, is one of the most isolated places on Earth, red dirt stretching to the horizon, temperatures that hit 45 degrees in summer, and work sites where the nearest town might be 300 kilometers away. I maintained the machines that made the mines run, hauled trucks the size of houses, excavators that could move mountains, drilling rigs that punched through rock to reach iron ore buried deep underground. When a $2 million piece of equipment broke down in the middle of a 12-hour shift, I was one of the guys they called to fix it. The money was excellent. Mining companies paid premium wages to attract workers willing to spend months at a time in the middle of nowhere. I worked fly-in, fly-out for most of my career, 2 weeks on site, 1 week at home, and banked most of what I earned. By the time I was 50, I had about 310,000 Australian dollars in savings, plus superannuation that would keep building until I properly retired. The lifestyle came with costs, though. Being gone 2/3 of every month doesn't leave much room for relationships. I married once, in my late 20s, to a woman named Carolyn who I'd met at a mate's barbecue. She was a nurse, practical and steady, and I thought we'd make a good team. We lasted 12 years. Carolyn got tired of being essentially single while technically married, tired of making decisions alone, tired of sleeping in an empty bed more often than not. She met someone else, a teacher at the school, where she volunteered and asked for a divorce when I was 41. I don't blame her. Not anymore. The anger faded over time, replaced by understanding. I'd chosen work over marriage, even if I hadn't consciously realized it at the time. She deserved someone who was actually present. We never had children, which made the split cleaner. We divided assets, sold the house, and went our separate ways. I threw myself back into work, picking up extra rotations, volunteering for the most remote and difficult postings. The loneliness was easier to ignore when I was exhausted. By 53, I was burned out. Decades of physical labor had taken a toll on my body. My knees ached constantly, my back gave me trouble, and the hearing loss from years of heavy machinery was noticeable even with protection. The company offered an early retirement package, and after some deliberation, I took it. I left the mining industry with my savings intact, a pension that would kick in at 60, and absolutely no idea what to do with my freedom. Perth felt strange after all those years of remote work. Too crowded, too expensive, too full of people who had lives I didn't understand. I spent a few months trying to settle in, joined a gym, attempted online dating, reconnected with old friends who'd moved on without me, but nothing stuck. I was a stranger in my own city. Then a bloke I'd worked with years earlier mentioned Thailand. His name was Dave, and he'd retired there 5 years prior. He'd send me photos and emails about his life in a place called Hua Hin beaches, temples, golf courses, a cost of living that made Australian prices seem obscene. He kept telling me to visit, to see if it might suit me. I flew over for 3 weeks in early 2023. Dave met me at the airport in Bangkok and drove me down to Hua Hin, about 200 kilometers south. The town was quieter than I'd expected, not the chaos of Pattaya or the tourist crush of Phuket, just a pleasant coastal city with a mix of Thai families and retired expats. I liked it immediately. The pace suited me. The weather was warm year-round. The people were friendly in an unforced way that felt different from Australian customer service politeness. And my money went dramatically further. I could rent a nice condo for what I'd spend on utilities back home. By the end of my 3 weeks, I decided to make the move. I flew back to Perth, sorted my affairs, and returned to Thailand in June 2023 with 2 suitcases and about 2,300,000 baht that I'd transferred to a Thai bank account for what I hoped would be my retirement fund. The loneliness came with me, of course. New surroundings don't cure what's broken inside. But I told myself it would be different here. Fresh start, new country, maybe even a new relationship with someone who appreciated what I had to offer. That optimism would prove to be my undoing. I met Belle on a Saturday evening at Hua Hin's night market, about 3 months after I'd settled into my new life. The night markets were one of my favorite things about Thailand. You could wander for hours through stalls selling everything from clothes to electronics to food that looked alien but tasted incredible. I developed a routine. Grab a cold beer, explore the stalls, pick up some dinner, and watch until I got tired. She was running a small stall selling handmade bags and accessories. Nothing fancy woven items, simple jewelry, that sort of thing. She was helping a Thai customer when I first noticed her, speaking quietly in Thai with a patience that suggested she dealt with difficult people regularly. What struck me was how unremarkable she seemed. In a market full of vendors calling out to foreigners, trying to draw attention to their goods, she just sat quietly behind her stall, arranging items, barely making eye contact with passers-by. No loud sales pitch, no aggressive pursuit of customers. I stopped at her stall to look at a leather bag, a gift idea for my sister back in Perth. She looked up and smiled, but didn't immediately launch into a sales routine. "This one is good quality," she said in careful English. "Real leather, not fake like some places." "How much?" She named a price that seemed reasonable. I didn't haggle, probably should have, but I've never been comfortable with that, and she wrapped the bag carefully, thanking me with a small bow. "You're not from here," she observed. "Australia? That obvious?" She laughed softly. "Your accent. I work in boutique before. Many Australian customers. Very friendly people." We chatted for a few minutes. Her name was Belle. She'd chosen the English name herself because tourists struggled with Kantima. She was 27, from Chiang Rai in the north, but had lived in Hua Hin for 2 years working various retail jobs. Her English was good, honed through customer service work. There was nothing flirtatious about the conversation. She was polite, professional, almost shy. When another customer approached her stall, she excused herself with an apologetic smile and turned her attention to them. I walked away thinking it was just a pleasant interaction, nothing more. But I found myself passing her stall again the following week. She remembered me, asked if my sister liked the bag, showed me some new items she'd gotten in. We talked longer this time about Australia, about Hua Hin, about her life in the north before she'd moved south for work. "I don't like city life much," she admitted. "Too busy, too loud. I prefer quiet, simple, Me too, I said. That's why I left Perth. Too much rushing around. Perth is big city? Big enough. 1.5 million people. Felt crowded after working in remote areas for so long. She nodded thoughtfully. I understand. I miss my home in Chiang Rai. Small village, very peaceful. Mountains, not like here. We exchanged line contacts before I left. She said she'd let me know if any interesting items came into her stall. I said I'd appreciate that. It felt innocent. A friendly connection with a local who happened to speak good English. I had no romantic intentions, no ulterior motives, just the simple pleasure of conversation in a country where my language skills were virtually non-existent. But looking back, I can see how carefully she was laying the groundwork. The modesty, the shyness, the emphasis on preferring quiet and simple, all of it calibrated to appeal to exactly the kind of man I was. Our friendship developed slowly, which only made me trust it more. We'd meet for coffee occasionally, always in public places, always during her breaks from work. She asked thoughtful questions about my life, the divorce, the mining career, the decision to relocate to Thailand. I found myself opening up in ways I hadn't with anyone in years. Belle was a good listener. She'd nod at the right moments, express sympathy without overdoing it, ask follow-up questions that showed she was actually paying attention. After years of superficial interactions and failed dating attempts, her genuine interest felt like water in a desert. She shared her own story too, or what I believed was her story. A childhood in a small village near Chiang Rai, parents who'd struggled to make ends meet as farmers. An older brother who died in a motorbike accident when she was 16. The decision to leave home and find work in the South because there were no opportunities in her village. I send money to my mother every month, she said. It's not much, but it helps. That's what family does, right? We take care of each other. I admired her dedication. It reminded me of the values I'd grown up with. Working hard, supporting your family, not expecting handouts. Belle seemed like the opposite of the gold diggers other expats had warned me about. She never asked for money, never suggested expensive restaurants, never dropped hints about gifts she wanted. About 2 months after we'd met, she invited me to dinner at her apartment. She wanted to cook Thai food for me. She said proper home cooking, not the tourist versions served in restaurants. Her place was modest, a small studio in an older building, simply furnished but immaculately clean. She prepared a feast. Green curry, pad thai, som tam, grilled fish with herbs. The food was incredible, and watching her move around the tiny kitchen, carefully plating each dish, made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. You're amazing, I said. This is the best Thai food I've ever had. She blushed, actually blushed, and looked away. It's just cooking. Nothing special. It's special to me. After dinner, we sat on her small balcony watching the lights of Hua Hin twinkle in the distance. She told me about her dream of someday having a proper house. Nothing fancy, just a place with a garden where she could grow vegetables like her mother did. But land is expensive, she said with a sigh. And my family's land in Chiang Rai, the bank wants to take it. They have loan, cannot pay. Every month I worry they lose everything. That's terrible, I said, meaning it. Is there anything that can be done? I save what I can. But shop assistant salary, not much. Sometimes I think. She trailed off, shaking her head. Never mind. I shouldn't complain. Many people have worse problems. I reached for her hand. You can tell me. She looked at me with something that seemed like vulnerability. I think sometimes, if I can just save enough to pay the bank, my family can keep the land. Then maybe someday, someone who loves me, we can build a small house there. Simple life, not asking for much. The seed had been planted. Not a request for money, not yet, but the foundation for one. A noble cause, a struggling family, a modest dream. All the elements designed to make me want to help without being asked. I didn't recognize the manipulation at the time. I just saw a sweet, hard-working woman who deserved better than she'd gotten from life. We started dating properly after that night. She'd come to my condo most evenings after work, cook dinner, watch TV with me until it was time to sleep. She was affectionate without being clingy. Attentive without being suffocating. Everything I'd been looking for after years of loneliness. She introduced me to her cousin, a young Thai man named Somchai who lived nearby. He was polite, spoke decent English, and helped translate during interactions where my lack of Thai was a barrier. Belle said he'd moved to Hua Hin to escape problems in the north and was trying to build a new life like she was. I liked Somchai. He seemed like a good kid, respectful and grateful when I'd pick up the bill for meals or help him with small expenses. It felt good to be part of something like a family again. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Somchai wasn't her cousin. He was her boyfriend, her partner in the scheme that was slowly closing around me. 6 months into our relationship, Belle and I talked seriously about the future. By then, she'd essentially moved into my condo. Her clothes filled half my closet. Her toiletries covered the bathroom counter. She cooked, cleaned, managed the household with quiet efficiency. To anyone looking at us, we were a settled couple building a life together. "I want you to meet my mother," she said one evening. "In Chiang Rai. It's important to me." "I'd like that," I said. "Tell me when, and I'll book the flights." Her face lit up, or seemed to. "Really? You would come all the way to my village?" "Of course. You're important to me. Your family is important to you. That makes them important to me." She hugged me tightly, and I felt a warmth spreading through my chest. This was what I'd wanted. This was the life I'd come to Thailand to find. We flew to Chiang Rai the following month. The landscape was stunning, mountains rising from lush green valleys, rice paddies stretching toward the horizon, temples with golden spires catching the sunlight. Belle's village was about an hour outside the city, down progressively smaller roads until we reached a cluster of houses surrounded by farmland. Her mother was a small, weathered woman who spoke no English but smiled warmly when Belle introduced me. She clasped my hands in hers and said something in Thai that Belle translated as, "Thank you for taking care of my daughter." The house was modest concrete and wood construction, basic amenities, surrounded by a garden where vegetables grew in neat rows. Belle showed me around, pointing out where she'd played as a child, where her brother's accident had happened, where she dreamed of building a proper home someday. "This land," she said, gesturing at the property, "has been in my family for generations. But the bank loan, if we can't pay, they take everything. My mother would have nowhere to go." "How much is the loan?" "About 1.4 million baht. I've been paying what I can, but it's not enough. The interest keeps growing." I did the math. 1.4 million baht was roughly 60,000 Australian dollars. Not pocket change, but well within what I could afford. "What if I helped?" I said. "Paid off the loan so your family could keep the land?" Belle's eyes widened. "Ray, no, I can't ask you for that. It's too much." "You're not asking. I'm offering." "But it's not right. We're not even married." "Then let's get married." The words came out before I'd fully thought them through. But once they were in the air, they felt right. I loved her. She seemed to love me. We were building a life together. Why not make it official? Belle started crying tears of happiness, I thought. She said yes. Of course she said yes. And her mother cried too when Belle translated the news. The whole village seemed to celebrate when word spread that the foreign man was going to marry their local girl. We had a small ceremony there in Chiang Rai, traditional Thai style, with monks and blessings and rituals I didn't understand but participated in willingly. The dowry was modest. Belle insisted she didn't want to burden me, and I paid for the celebration that followed. After we returned to Hua Hin as a married couple, the conversation about the land came up again. "If you really want to help," Belle said carefully, "we could buy the land from the bank, pay off the loan, put the land in my name. Then it's ours. We can build our future home there." "Why your name specifically?" "Because foreigners can't own land in Thailand. It's the law. But if we're married, and the land is in my name, it's protected. It's for our family." This was true. I'd heard it from other expats. Foreigners couldn't directly own land in Thailand. The workaround was to have Thai spouses hold the title, with various legal arrangements to protect the foreign investor's interest. "What about some kind of legal protection?" I asked. "A contract or something?" "Of course! We can do it all properly. I have a lawyer friend who can help. Everything official, everything documented. I don't want you to worry about anything." She introduced me to her lawyer friend, a well-dressed Thai man named Kun Prasit, who spoke excellent English and had an office in Chiang Rai. He explained the process. We'd pay off the bank loan, transfer the land title to Belle's name, and register a usufruct, a legal document giving me lifetime rights to use the property. It all seemed legitimate. Kun Prasit showed me documents, explained Thai property law, answered my questions patiently. I trusted him because Belle trusted him. and I trusted Belle because I loved her. I transferred 1,400,000 baht to pay off the supposed bank loan. Kun Prasit provided receipts, land documents, registration papers, all official looking, all properly stamped and signed. The land was ours. Or so I believed. With the land secured, Belle started talking about the house. "The old house is falling apart," she said, showing me photos of her mother's place. "Roof leaking, foundation cracking, not safe to live in much longer. But if we renovate, make it solid, modern, we could have a beautiful home." "How much would that cost?" She'd done her research, she said. A contractor in Chiang Rai had given her a quote 900,000 baht for a complete renovation. New roof, reinforced foundation, modern plumbing and electrical, an extension to add a second bedroom. That way, when we retire there, we have proper space, Belle explained. Guest room for visitors, maybe even. She paused, looking shy. Maybe room for baby someday? The mention of children caught me off guard. At 54, I'd long ago accepted that fatherhood wasn't in my future. But the way Belle said it, hopeful, almost nervous, made me wonder if it might still be possible. "You want children?" I asked. "With the right person. With you." She took my hand. "I know I'm not young girl anymore. But Thai women, we can have baby older. If you want, we can try." It was the final piece of the fantasy she'd constructed. Not just a wife. Not just a home. But a family. Everything I thought I'd missed out on by choosing work over life, offered to me now when I'd least expected it. I transferred 900,000 baht for the renovation. Belle said she'd coordinate with the contractor, handle the details, make sure everything was done properly. I didn't need to worry about anything, she'd take care of it. Months passed. Belle would show me photos occasionally, workers on scaffolding, piles of building materials, progress shots of the renovation. I had no reason to doubt her. Why would I? She was my wife. We were building a future together. But I never actually visited the site during the renovation. Belle always had reasons why the timing wasn't right. The rainy season made the roads impassable. The workers were behind schedule, and it would just stress me out to see the delays. Her mother was unwell and couldn't host visitors. I accepted the excuses because I wanted to believe her. Because the alternative that my wife was lying to me was too painful to consider. The total I'd invested was now 2,300,000 baht. Nearly my entire Thai savings. All of it in Belle's hands. Supposedly transforming her family's land into our retirement paradise. I had no idea I'd never see most of it again. The decision to visit, unannounced, wasn't planned. I didn't suspect anything specific. I just missed Belle, who'd been in Chiang Rai for 2 weeks, handling family matters. And I thought it would be romantic to surprise her. I booked a flight from Bangkok to Chiang Rai without telling anyone. I'd show up at the property, see the renovations in person for the first time, spend a few days with my wife and her family. A happy surprise. The taxi driver from the airport took me to the village. I'd been there once before, for the wedding, so I recognized the general area. But as we approached what I thought was Belle's family property, something felt wrong. The house looked exactly the same as it had a year ago. Same sagging roof, same cracked walls, same overgrown garden. No evidence of any renovation work whatsoever. I told the driver to stop. I got out and stood in the road, staring at the unchanged structure, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe I had the wrong house? Maybe the address was different than I remembered? An elderly woman emerged from a neighboring property. She looked at me with curiosity. Foreigners weren't common in this village. "Excuse me," I said, fumbling for Thai phrases I barely knew. "Kantima? Belle?" The woman's expression changed. Recognition, followed by something that looked like pity. She called out, and a younger man appeared, maybe her son. He spoke limited English, enough to communicate. "You look for Belle?" "Yes." "My wife? She live here?" The man exchanged a glance with the older woman. Something passed between them, hesitation, reluctance. "Belle not here," he said. "Not here for a long time, but this is her mother's house, right? The land I paid for the land." More rapid tie between the man and the woman. The man shook his head slowly. This land belonged to Kun Somchai family, not Belle family. Belle family. He gestured vaguely toward the road. "Different village, 2 hours from here." I felt the ground shift beneath me. "Who is Somchai?" I asked, though I already knew. The helpful cousin who'd been part of our lives for months. "Somchai?" He is. The man searched for the word. Husband. Belle husband. They married 3 years ago. The world went silent. I stood in that dusty road, surrounded by rice paddies and mountains, and felt everything I'd believed crumble to dust. Belle was married to Somchai. For 3 years, the land I'd paid for didn't belong to her family. It belonged to Somchai's family, probably his uncle, based on what I'd later learn. The renovation I'd funded had never happened. The photos she'd shown me were stolen from the internet or staged at different properties entirely. 2,300,000 baht. Gone. You have picture? The man asked gently, perhaps sensing my distress. I showed him photos from my phone. Belle and me at our wedding. Belle cooking in my kitchen. Belle smiling on my balcony in Hua Hin. He showed them to the older woman. They both nodded, then showed me something in return. A photo on the old woman's phone. Belle and Somchai, standing together outside a temple. Belle was wearing a wedding dress, not the same one from our ceremony, but another one. An older photo, based on Belle's slightly different hairstyle. I stared at it for a long time. The neighbor spoke again quietly. Many foreigner come before. Ask same question. Look for Belle. Many foreigners? He held up 3 fingers. 3, 4 year. Different man, same story. I wasn't even her first victim. I flew back to Hua Hin in a daze. My mind kept cycling through memories, reinterpreting every moment through the lens of what I now knew. Every kiss, every meal, every whispered promise, all of it performance. All of it preparation for the extraction of my money. Belle's phone was off. Her line account showed no activity. When I went to the apartment where she supposedly worked, the boutique owner said she'd quit 2 months ago and hadn't left forwarding information. She'd vanished, taken my money and disappeared, probably to run the same scam on someone else in some other city. I could have given up. Most victims do, from what I understand. The shame of being scammed is often worse than the financial loss, and the Thai legal system is notoriously difficult for foreigners to navigate. The easy path would be to absorb my losses and retreat to Australia with my tail between my legs. But I've never been one to take the easy path. I spent 30 years solving problems in the mining industry, mechanical failures, equipment breakdowns, situations that seemed impossible until I figured them out. This was just another problem. Complicated, painful, but solvable. I started with what I had, the documents Belle and Kun Prosit had provided, the land title documents, the renovation contracts, the bank receipts. All of them had names, registration numbers, and official-looking stamps. At the time, I'd taken them at face value. Now, I examined them with a skeptic's eye. It didn't take long to spot the problems. The land registration numbers, when I tried to verify them through official channels, didn't exist. The bank that had supposedly held the loan wasn't a recognized Thai financial institution. Kun Prasit's law office, when I searched for it online, had no presence beyond a generic website that could have been created in an afternoon. Everything was fake. Professionally done, but fake. But fake documents still contain real information. The bank account numbers where I'd transferred money, those were real. They had to be, or the transfers wouldn't have gone through. The names on those accounts might be fake, but the accounts themselves could be traced. I needed professional help. Through the Expat network in Hua Hin, I found a Thai attorney named Kun Wiria. She was in her 40s, educated in the UK, and specialized in fraud cases involving foreigners. Her English was flawless, and her reputation was solid. This is unfortunately common, she told me during our first meeting, reviewing my documents. Property scams targeting foreign men. They use fake papers, fake lawyers, fake everything. Most victims never pursue legal action because they're embarrassed or don't know how. I'm not most victims, I said. I want her found. I want my money back, and I want her prosecuted. Kun Wiria studied me for a moment. That will require time, money, and cooperation from police. Are you prepared for that? Whatever it takes, she nodded slowly. Then, let's begin. Kun Wiria's approach was methodical. She started by tracing the money. The bank account I'd transferred funds to was registered in the name of Somchai Wongsawat Belle's real husband. That account had subsequently transferred money to 2 other accounts. One belonging to a man named Prasit Jaruanporn, the fake lawyer, and another belonging to a man named Udam Wongsawat, Somchai's uncle, who actually owned the land I'd been shown. They're a family operation Hunwiria explained. Somchai is the front man. Prasit creates the documents, and Udom provides the property as a prop. Belle is the one who finds and cultivates the victims. Have they done this before? We'll find out. She filed information requests with various agencies and reached out to contacts in expat communities across Thailand. Within weeks, she'd identified 2 other foreign men who'd been victimized by the same group. One was a German man named Klaus, who'd lost about 800,000 baht to Belle 3 years earlier. He'd married her in a ceremony eerily similar to mine, funded land purchases that never materialized, and watched her disappear when he ran out of money. The other was an American named Stephen, who'd been scammed just 6 months before me. His story was almost identical to mine: the night market meeting, the slow courtship, the property investment, the vanishing act. He'd lost over 1 million baht. There may be more, Hunwiria said, but these 2 are willing to testify. Combined with your case, we have a pattern of organized fraud. The next step was deciding where to file. Thai law is complicated when it comes to jurisdiction. Fraud cases are typically handled where the crime occurred, but in this case, where the crime occurred could mean Hua Hin, where Belle had operated, Chiang Rai, where the supposed property was located, or Bangkok, where some of the money had been laundered. Hunwiria recommended Chiang Rai. Rural provinces take foreigner fraud very seriously, she explained. It damages their reputation, affects tourism and investment. The police there will be motivated to pursue this, more motivated than in a big city where they're overwhelmed with cases. We filed the complaint in Chiang Rai, providing comprehensive documentation. My testimony, the fraudulent documents, bank transfer records, the evidence linking Belle and her associates to the Klaus and Stephen cases, and a timeline showing the pattern of behavior. The police were initially skeptical. They'd heard plenty of foreigner complaints that went nowhere, but the quality of our evidence impressed them. Hunwiria's reputation helped too. She was known for bringing only solid cases. Within 2 weeks, arrest warrants were issued for Kantima Saitang, Belle's real name, Somchai Wongsawat, Prasit Jaruanporn, and Udom Wongsawat. The hunt was on. Belle and her crew had gone to ground after I'd appeared unexpectedly in Chiang Rai. They'd probably assumed I'd slink away like their previous victims. But when police started making inquiries, they must have realized something had changed. Tracking them proved challenging. They'd abandoned their known addresses in both Hua Hin and Chiang Rai. Their phones were off or using new SIM cards. They'd deactivated social media accounts and stopped using traceable banking. But criminals make mistakes, especially when they're running. The breakthrough came from Somchai's motorcycle. He'd registered it under his real name years ago, before the scam operation became sophisticated enough to use aliases for everything. Traffic cameras in Pattaya, about 3 hours from Hua Hin, captured the motorcycle multiple times over a 2-week period. Police traced the motorcycle to an apartment complex in a cheaper part of Pattaya. Surveillance confirmed that Somchai was living there, along with a woman matching Belle's description. They didn't raid immediately. Instead, they watched, gathered evidence, and identified Prasit and Udom's locations as well. The goal was to arrest everyone simultaneously, preventing any of them from warning the others. The raids happened early on a Monday morning, coordinated strikes in Pattaya, Bangkok, where Prasit had an apartment, and Chiang Rai, where Udom still lived. Somchai was caught trying to flee out a back window. He'd heard the commotion and panicked, but officers were waiting. He surrendered without much resistance. Belle was found inside the apartment, packing suitcases as if she'd been planning to run. She tried to talk her way out, at first claimed mistaken identity, demanded to see a lawyer, insisted she'd done nothing wrong, but the evidence was overwhelming. Prasit and Udom were arrested without incident. Both seemed resigned, as if they'd known this day would eventually come. Hunwiria called me with the news that evening. They're all in custody, she said. Police want you to come to Chiang Rai for identification and statements. I booked a flight for the next morning. The police station in Chiang Rai was a modest building, nothing like the gleaming facilities you'd see in Western crime dramas. Ceiling fans stirred the humid air, and officers worked at cluttered desks surrounded by stacks of paperwork. Hunwiria met me there, along with Klaus and Stephen, the other victims who'd agreed to testify. We shook hands and exchanged stories while waiting to be called for identification. Klaus was in his late 50s, a retired engineer from Munich who'd come to Thailand looking for the same thing I had: peace, warmth, companionship. He'd met Belle at a temple, of all places. and had been charmed by her apparent spirituality and devotion to family. She cried about her mother, he said bitterly. The sick mother, the failing farm, the bank taking the land. The same story she told you, yes? I nodded. Word for word, probably. Stephen was younger, mid-40s, divorced, a software developer from California who'd moved to Thailand after his company went remote. He'd met Belle through a dating app, where she'd presented herself as a traditional Thai woman looking for serious relationship. She had the whole profile optimized, Stephen said. Photos that looked classy but not too professional. Bio that hit all the keywords lonely men search for. She knew exactly what she was doing. 3 men, 3 countries, 3 variations on the same con. Belle had been doing this for years, refining her technique with each victim. The identification took place in a small room with one-way glass. They brought in Somchai first. I confirmed he was the cousin I'd known, the helpful young man who'd been part of my life for months while secretly sleeping with my wife and spending my money. Then Prasit, the fake lawyer who'd explained Thai property law with such authority while producing forged documents that would steal my savings. Then Udom, the uncle whose land I'd supposedly purchased, who'd taken my money knowing full well I'd never see any benefit from it. Finally, Belle. They led her into the viewing room, and I saw her clearly for the first time since everything had fallen apart. She looked diminished, smaller, paler, stripped of the careful presentation that had made her seem so trustworthy. The modest clothes and gentle manner were gone, replaced by a rumpled appearance and desperate eyes. That's her, I said. Kantama Saitang, my wife. The woman who stole my money. The officer asked if I wanted to speak with her directly. I hesitated what was left to say, but then nodded. I needed closure. They brought me into the room where she sat. Her eyes widened when she saw me, and immediately the performance began. Tears welled up. Her voice trembled. Ray, please, she said. This is all a misunderstanding. I love you. I really love you. My family, they forced me into this. Somchai, he threatened me. I didn't want to hurt you. I listened without responding. Let her talk. Let her try every manipulation technique in her arsenal. Please, Ray. You're a good man. You can help me. Tell them I didn't mean it. Tell them I was a victim too. We can start over. I'll be a good wife this time, I promise. Stop. My voice was quiet but firm. She stopped. You stole from me, I said. You lied to me from the first moment we met. Everything, our relationship, our marriage, your family, the land, all of it was fake. A performance designed to take my money. No, Ray, I'm not finished. I leaned forward slightly. You thought I was just another rich foreigner. Easy money. Someone who'd be too embarrassed to fight back, too confused to navigate the legal system. You've done this before. Klaus, Stephen, probably others we don't even know about. Her tears had stopped. The mask was slipping, revealing something harder underneath. But here's what you didn't understand about me. I spent 30 years fixing problems in the mining industry. When a $2 million machine breaks down in the middle of nowhere, you don't give up. You figure it out. You solve the problem. I stood up. You were a problem. I solved you. I turned and walked out without looking back. Behind me, I heard her start crying again. Real tears this time, maybe, or just another performance. It didn't matter anymore. I was done with her. The legal process took several months. Thai courts moved slowly, and the case was complicated by the multiple victims and the organized nature of the fraud. Klaus, Stephen, and I all testified. We presented our evidence. The fake documents, the bank transfers, the timeline of deception. We described how Belle had targeted us, cultivated our trust, and extracted our money using variations of the same techniques. The prosecution built a strong case. They'd traced money flows, documented the network of fake identities and forged papers, and established a clear pattern of organized criminal activity. Belle's defense tried to paint her as a victim herself, a young woman manipulated by Somchai and pressured by her family into participating in crimes she didn't fully understand. Her lawyer suggested that the real masterminds were the men and that Belle had been used as a tool. The evidence told a different story. Communications recovered from her phone showed her actively coordinating with the others, discussing which techniques worked best on different types of men, and calculating how much more could be extracted before each victim caught on. She wasn't a victim. She was the public face of a predatory operation. Somchai's defense took a different approach. He tried to shift all blame to Belle, claiming she was the mastermind and that he'd been a passive participant who did what she told him. The prosecution pointed out that the bank accounts were in his name, the uncle was his relative, and he'd benefited directly from every theft. Prasit and Udom pleaded guilty in exchange for reduced sentences. They provided testimony against Belle and Somkai, confirming the organized nature of the operation and their respective roles in it. The verdict came after 2 days of deliberation. Guilty. All of them. Belle received 1 year and 6 months for fraud, falsifying financial documents, property deception, and participation in an organized criminal network. Somchai received a similar sentence. Prasit and Udom received reduced sentences of 8 months each for their cooperation. The court also ordered asset seizure and restitution. After the legal process concluded, approximately 1,500,000 baht was recovered from frozen accounts and property split among the 3 identified victims based on our relative losses. I received about 600,000 baht, less than a third of what I'd lost, but more than I'd expected given how thoroughly they'd tried to hide the money. When the sentence was read, Belle finally looked at me. The mask was completely gone now. No tears, no pleading, just cold fury. She said something in Thai that I didn't understand, but her tone made the meaning clear enough. I'd ruined her operation, destroyed her income stream, sent her to prison, and damaged her reputation in ways that would follow her for years. I held her gaze without flinching. She could hate me all she wanted. I'd gotten what I came for. Justice. Closure. And the knowledge that she wouldn't be doing this to anyone else for at least 18 months. It's been 14 months since the trial. Belle is still in prison, serving the remainder of her sentence. Somchai is there too. Prasit and Udom have been released, but their names and faces are now in databases that legitimate lawyers and property agents check before doing business. The network is broken. Not destroyed forever, people like them always find ways to start over, but damaged enough that it will take years to rebuild, if they even try. I'm still in Thailand. Hua Hin specifically, the same place where I first believed I'd found a new life. That might seem strange staying in the country where I was so thoroughly betrayed, but leaving felt like letting Belle win. Like admitting she'd taken more than my money. Thailand didn't scam me. One person did, one person who happened to be Thai, but who could have been from anywhere. Criminals exist in every country, every culture. I refuse to punish an entire nation for the actions of a few predators. My finances have recovered somewhat. The 600,000 baht I got back helped, and I've been more careful about how I spend what remains. I no longer keep large amounts in Thai bank accounts. I don't invest in property I haven't personally verified through independent channels. I don't trust documents until a lawyer I've hired has examined them. I've made genuine connections here too. Other expats who've been through similar experiences and understand what it's like to rebuild after betrayal. Thai people who had nothing to do with what happened and welcomed me despite it. A community of survivors who look out for each other. I'm not dating. The wound is still too fresh. The memory of Belle's deception still too vivid. Maybe someday I'll be ready to trust someone again. Maybe not. Either way, I've made peace with the uncertainty. What I know for certain is that I'm stronger than I thought. When Belle targeted me, she saw a lonely man with money-easy pickings for someone skilled in manipulation. She didn't see the decades of problem-solving experience, the stubbornness that had kept me going through 30 years of difficult work, the refusal to quit that had defined my entire career. She thought she could steal my money and walk away. She thought I'd be too embarrassed to fight, too confused to navigate the legal system, too defeated to pursue justice. She was wrong. I spent months building a case. I coordinated with other victims. I hired the right lawyer and filed in the right jurisdiction. I did what most scam victims never do. I fought back, systematically and effectively. And in the end, she paid the price. People ask me sometimes if it was worth it. The time, the money, the emotional energy I invested in pursuing Belle and her associates. Would I have been better off just accepting the loss and moving on? I understand the question. 300,000 baht in legal fees, months of stress, the constant reopening of wounds I might otherwise have let heal. From a purely financial perspective, the math is questionable. I recovered about 600,000 baht, but spent half that getting it back. But justice isn't just about money. It's about principle. About not letting predators operate with impunity. About sending a message that some foreigners fight back. Every victim who pursues legal action makes it harder for scammers to operate. Every prosecution adds to the record, helps police identify patterns, discourages others from attempting similar crimes by refusing to stay silent. I became part of something larger than my own wounded pride. Klaus and Steven feel the same way. We've stayed in touch since the trial. 3 men from 3 countries bound by our shared experience. We share information, warn each other about new scam techniques, and support expats who find themselves in similar situations. The scam industry in Thailand is vast and sophisticated. For every Belle we stop, there are dozens more operating in the shadows, refining their techniques, targeting the lonely and the hopeful. We can't stop all of them. We can only make their work a little harder, their success a little less certain. Belle will be released from prison in a few months. Maybe she'll have learned something. Maybe she'll just find new victims in new locations, apply her skills in a different market. I can't control what she does after she's free. What I can control is my own response to what happened. I could have let the experience embitter me, turn me against Thailand, against Thai women, against the possibility of genuine human connection. Instead, I chose to pursue justice and then move forward with my life. I still believe in love. I still believe that most people are fundamentally decent. I still hope that someday I might find what I was looking for when I first came to this country: peace, companionship, a place to grow old without the loneliness that had defined so much of my life. But I also know that trust must be earned, not given, that documents should be verified by independent professionals, that anyone who seems too good to be true probably is. Belle thought she could steal my 2,300,000 baht and walk away into the sunset. She thought I was just another rich foreigner, another easy mark, another name to add to her list of victims. She was catastrophically wrong. She took my money. She took my trust. She took 8 months of my life pretending to love me while systematically emptying my bank accounts. But I took something too. I took her freedom. I took her network. I took her ability to do this again, at least for a while. She thought she could steal from me without consequences. I made her regret it.